Hello, everyone. This is your boy St. Dez again, and I'm getting ready to come to you with, I guess you could call it part three of my coverage of the Axis Football franchise guide. And this is over Axis Football 2024 or Axis Football 24. And this particular part of the franchise is going to be covering the front office and the front office activities. So, whenever you're within the actual menu and you got your dashboard, you have the stats, personnel, the front office, and the settings. We're going to be covering the front office. Now, one of the things that we're going to get kind of in depth with, we're going to cover the coaching staffs. We're going to cover how the scouting is. We're going to cover how to actually draft. We're going to go into practice strategies, facilities, how they impact your players and impact your revenue. And we're going to see how much your actual financial report is. And we're going to see the actual transactions that your team have did. And we'll actually do one or two to just get an idea. So one of the things we're going to go into first, we're going to go ahead and go into front office. And when we go into front office, we see that, as I was stating before, we got the coaching staff and all of this information. So when you go into the coaching staff, it shows you pretty much your coordinators and your head coach. Then it goes into your position coaches, and then it goes into your scouts. So when you see your coordinator, first you have your head coach, you have your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator, and then you have your special teams or your ST coordinator. Now, when you look at your particular coach, one of the things you get to see is not only just the name, but you get to see how many years they actually is signed for. So right now, Sebastian McCarthy, he is actually signed on a 6-year contract. We see here his information as far as salary. He's making $4.7 million. He's only 34. He's got a career record of 61-40. Hasn't been to the playoffs, but this particular franchise that I'm using is only in the first year as a demo. So that's why he don't even have a playoff record. But then it shows how many years left on his contract. He had 6 years experience, no championships, no playoffs appearance. We see his attributes. So right now, if you look at how his attributes are, he actually specialized in being a motivational speaker for his team. He's a disciplined coach, and he is an offensive coach. So one of the things that you will hear some people talk about when they actually talk about Axis football, they will be like, man, this game, I don't like it because just the simple plays. Why is it that my teammates are jumping off sides? That looks, horrible. Or that was a stupid play by my particular player. These attributes really actually have a meaning. So when you see a dumb play, it may be not just because the player attributes are not disciplined or whatever, but you might have a bad positional coach as well. So all of this stuff ties into the makeup of your players. So if you see that a team is literally, making dumb decisions when it's getting close to the end of the game, and it's the AI or, the CPU that you're playing against, the reason that they're doing that is because they're not as smart as if it was like right now, Sebastian, he's not going to make a discipline error. So when it comes to building up his players' discipline, he's got an A, rating. So it's going to be real good that most of his players is going to actually be disciplined. Whenever they are on a losing streak, it's going to be easier for him to motivate them to get back into the flow of winning because he's a B and he's an offensive minded, coach. So this is where that particular information comes in, and he's a B overall. So then we also see some of the badges that he have. We see that it's kind of funny that his badges is going to be something that help offset some of his weakness, even though he's a C in defensive as far as his attributes. He is actually an expert in getting defensive backs. So one of the things that happens with this is he gives a +1 boost to all of his, defensive backs, or his corners or his, his safeties or whatever. So they get that. And then also he gives a +1 boost to all of his running backs. So he's a backs expert. So if you were to get a running back and you have him, what will happen? All of their ratings just automatically going to bump up to 1. Or if you got your corners, all of their ratings is going to bump up 1 because he's an expert in teaching those particular players. And just like I was saying, now here's like your positional coaches. So what you have here, you're going to have pretty much what you expect. You have your quarterback coach, your running back coach, your reception or your receiver coaches. Then you're going to have your offensive lineman, your defensive lineman, your linebackers, and then your defensive backs. So you're going to have all of those actual positional coaches. One of the things to think about, okay, same thing goes with Gregory Massey. He's on a 6-year contract. We see that he has stats, for offense, and we see that his development is a B-. And we see he's a motivational. So right now we see that this particular team is supposed to be good, even though when I actually show you, or if you notice when I was starting the game, they like 1-4 in this particular franchise. But overall, they should be able to coach. When you look at his ratings, the +1 boost for all running back attributes, and with the the actual head coach has got a +1, automatically this team is going to have a +2 on any side of the as far as the running backs concerned. So they're going to have a +2. That's before any type of I guess you could say the team morale or whatever is even put in play. So right now, this is the things that will help build up your team to actually get them to do the things that they need to do as far as running backs concerned. Now, one of the things that I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to kind of go more in depth with, I'm going to show you the scouting part of this. So when you're in the scouting part of the game, your scouts pretty much covers over 4 regions in the game. It's going to be the West, the Central, the Southeast, and the Northeast. So we see we have the West Scout, we have the Central Scout, we have the Southeast Scout, and then we have the Northeastern Scout. The thing about these scouts are their attributes. They're going to actually recognize the talent by the attributes. So when you actually notice, they may or may not be in the talent pool to actually become a positional coach or be a coordinator. But if you see how Jalen Waltenberg is actually got evaluation as an A+ and his disciplines are A, we see already that when he actually gives you a report, a scouting report on a particular player, he's giving you to the closest to the actual abilities of that particular player that he scouts. The worse it is, the more likely as they use the scouting points, what you see that he is getting ready to go over, and then what he actually report on, it could be, plus or minus. And I'm going to show you a little bit better in just a few, because if you don't have an example of this, then you may go into the scouting report and you're like, well, I thought that this particular player was a B-, but then when you scout him, he's sitting there at a D, plus, and you're like, wait a minute, he went from a, B- to like a D+. What, where did this rating come from? And a lot of this is going into your scouts. Another thing, we see another badge, and we see right here with the Central Scout, Jared Huff, he's actually got a +10 boost in his evaluation. He's already an A+, and then he got a +10. So he's really going to have off the chart, evaluations when he's actually evaluating his talent. So one of the things to think about. So we see that. Now we see Southeast, and then we see, the Northeast. So right now you're going to have a strong West Scout and you're going to have a strong Central Scout. And what you should be able to have when you actually go into the actual scouting reports throughout the week, you should have a strong West and Central scouting report, for those particular players. and you really should have a good central scout, information. It's like you can almost bank on whatever Jared tells you as far as the player is concerned. That's going to be good. So you're going to hope that there's a good crop of players that you need is coming out of the central, region when you go to actually scout. So now to talk more about that, what we're going to do is we're going to go and actually go to the scouting and use the points. Each week, you should get, I think it's either 3 or 4 points for your particular scouts. And each scout is going to have the points appear. I always, as a habit, just go ahead and wait until I get 12 points because I have not seen the game allow it to go past 12 points. So what I do, I wait until about 3 weeks or about 4 weeks until I get all of my points up. And then that's when I go scout the players to actually get what I tried to want, for my team at that time. Now, one of the things that you see when you're in this particular part, you have like the scouting report, and then you can change the scouting focus. So right now, what we got, and it actually tells us right here, so you can make note of this. I didn't recognize it before, but we can make note of this. Scouts earn 1 point per week, and the maximum is 3. So there you go. So when I've been waiting 4 weeks, I've been hurting myself, been shooting myself in the foot, as they say. So right there, you was earn 1 point per week, and you only get 3. So every 3 weeks, unless you just want to do it every week, you just will get a point and you up to 3. So don't sit there and do like I did and was going 4 weeks, because you would actually lose a week of scouting that you may need. But one of the things that we see with Jalen Waltberg is right now he's scouting for quarterback, defensive line, and we see that he's scouting for wide receiver. Now, one of the things we see right now, we got this information here, but then we also have this about the scouting report. I'm going to go ahead and click on the scouting report. That way we can see what type of talent is actually expected to be in the West region. So when I click on the scouting report, it's going to tell us the National Scouting Report. The National Scouting Report is a yearly table show of qualified players in each region. It is useful for identifying each position to scout each different region. So you pay like the $2 million or whatever it is for that particular time to get the scouting report, and then it will give you the overall quality for everyone that's in those particular regions. So when we sit here and we purchase this, it tells us this particular year, if we was wanting a quarterback, especially in the West, they are garbage. This is not the year to need a quarterback. Right now, we don't need a quarterback. If we did, we are in very bad trouble, because in the West and the Northeast, they are horrible. And then in the Central and the Southeast, they're D. I mean, this is just not the year to be trying to find a good quarterback. But then we see like running back, they are bad throughout the other regions. But if we was needing a running back, then what we need to have right now is we need to be in the West. And we know that our West scout and our Central scout are our strong scouts. So this is where we would want that. So this is pretty much just to give you an understanding of what it means to have the scouting report. Now here's where the problem come in. We'll go back to the scouting report again. Right now, even the wide receivers are bad. So pretty much this is just a horrible, especially if you need a punter, kicker. I mean, they are horrible. This is just a bad year to need anything in the draft, unless you're trying to get a running back, and unless you're in the West. This is just a bad year to want this particular stuff. But right now we see that, running back's the best thing going. And what we can do is we can change the scouting focus. So what we'll do right here, we're going to go ahead and change the scouting focus. And it's going to say the scouting focus determine which position you are interested in scouting for this region. Only players in these positions will appear in your prospect list. So one of the things you see here is you get the option to change the focus. And remember, your first focus is going to be what they put the emphasis on the most at first, and then it's going to be the first, second, and third. So right now, running back, and we'll just leave these the way they are and done. Now, here's where everything kind of changed for the better. Now, if you notice, change, from quarterback to running back, the first person we get is DeMarcus McCoy in here. Now we have a Western scout. So the West scout, we know that he's one of our strong suits as far as getting any type of talent. And we know that off of the scouting report, A+ is for the running backs. And we see the estimated overall for DeMarcus McCoy is an A+. We're going to press, the button, or we're going to try to scout him and use points on him to see how good he is. So when I do so, well, that was give me a second. Yes. When you do so, when I go ahead and use a point on him, I do a full scouting on him, and you notice the entire bar is full. And you see that the estimated overall is now an A. So he only went down from a A+ to an A. So when it's, draft come, DeMarcus McCoy, that would be who we would want if we could get a chance to draft him. That's pretty much how that goes. Now I'm going to go to the Northeast, and I'm going to see right now we got the offensive lineman, we got the tight end, and we got a punter. So I'm going to go ahead and change his focus to a quarterback, just to give you an idea how crazy this is. If you remember, quarterbacks was like bad here. So it's showing us a C, plus as far as the estimated overall. So when we look at him and we press on it, it goes from the C+ to a C-. Sometimes it'll go even worse. And as I said, it will continue to go up and down. And also, since he was, one of our weakest, scouts, he didn't even get a full scouting report of Jermaine Brisket because he don't have the talent and the knowledge to do so. So we would have to come back to him again to scout him, since he's a C+ overall as far as the scout's concerned. So this is how scouting works. So now when you go to the team draft guide, right here, it gives us who would be the best fits for us right here. And this is how this particular thing would work. It shows us people we scouted, and it will show us the live draft, show us the player pool, and things like that. So one of the things we can do, we sit there, we went into the running back position, we scouted DeMarcus McCoy, and it shows us the estimated overall is an A+. And he's the top of the list right now. So that's pretty much how this works. So right now, when you actually go into this particular part of the draft, then you get to see, why would I want to actually, draft a particular person? We first get the team performance. Right now, this particular team is like 1-4 in the season. We see the passing yards, we the 22nd overall team right now. Rushing, we are garbage. Out of 32 teams, we 31st in rushing. We need, McCoy right now. We need DeMarcus bad. And so if we get the number 1 overall pick, he needs to be like our main one, or get a quarterback. Either or, but we would probably get McCoy, since the quarterback crop this year is horrible. Pass defense, we 32nd. Points, 32nd. I mean, we need help. The only thing that we're good in is the rush defense. And the only reason we're probably good in the rush defense is because teams is just throwing on us and they don't have to run. So that's where that problem comes in. So one of the things that you do from here, you will go down and it tells us the areas of need. Shows us we need a quarterback. And they tell us that a draft replacement would be this Lawrence French. But we got to remember, when you looked at how the scouting report was, this estimated overall for French probably is not accurate, because even though it says that he's a B, he's probably not. And if he is the B, he's probably the only player that is that good, and everyone else is going to be horrible. So things like this is where, you got to pay attention to what is given to you and recommended to you, and then just kind of outweigh the goods and the bads. So then you also see that the defensive lineman, Donnie McDaniels, he's a C+ right now on our team. And now these are starters now. See, these are people that is actually starting. This is why we horrible. And it's showing us that we could get us a defensive lineman that is an A+. But just keep in mind, even though it says an A+ does not mean that we'll be able to get him. And then the same here with the linebackers versus, the linebacker that we could draft. Now, the best picks is showing us right here that Rick Little would be someone that we should be able to get. And it's kind of comparing again. It was about the other defensive lineman, saying Dillard Boyd said he's an A compared to the defensive lineman. And then, as we found out right now, when we look at DeMarcus McCoy, he's an A+. We should be able to draft him if we was picking right now. And then Clayton McKinney, that's our current running back. So even though he's got a B-, right now we'll be doing an upgrade. Plus, that shows us that we need some type of offensive lineman, because right now we just horrible all the way around. So we need help. But that's pretty much how you go about that. And then the team summary showing you how many picks that you have in this particular draft that you're in and what you have already picked. And it will show you this. And right here is the actual summary as well. So now we've already went over the team, scouts, the coaching, and we showed, how the actual draft is. Now the practice strategy right here, when you go into the practice strategy, one of the things that you see that you can do for the particular team is you can actually, kind of give them a rest, or you can keep it at normal, or you can intensify how well the team is, need to practice in a particular area. One of the things that this does, it continues to build up the attributes. So just remember, there is a progress and a regressive stage for each of your players. So if you got a player that's only 20 years old and he's a high prospect, then if you have, just like the running back McCoy, if we were to sit there and have him learning how to rush and have ball security, then we put that all the way up and we got it on a heavy, actual practice regimen, then he should gain more, attributes than if we had like a 33-year-old running back that is just, maybe like a C-. I mean, he's not going to get any better. What you see is what you get. So this is where this is coming into play. And just remember, if you played any other type of football games, any platforms, especially Madden, if you're a Madden person, if you have it on heavy practice, just think, the harder you push them, the more tired they will be going into the next game. So you'll wonder, why is it that my players is getting subbed out more, or why is it that they not running as hard as they could? It's because you overworked them in this particular part of the session. But then if you were to go too light, and just like I did here, just went completely light and not doing anything with them, then the problem that you have is then you're not going to gain any attributes. You're not going to gain anything. So you have to know how to be a good coach right here on what you want to work on and what you don't want to work on. All right. So now, after we talk about practice strategy, we want to talk about the facilities. Now, here is one of those things that, Madden used to have, a whole lot in depth with, and I don't even know about the current things about Madden or whatever. I just don't want to talk about them. But one of the things that I love that, Access Football has got in their game, and I hope that they continue to use this and improve on this, is, this is something that used to be in all football games. you would have like your facilities, and these things actually improve or hurt how well your team does as well. And what we see right here is we see like the stadium, the training, the rehab, and the transportation for your particular team. So right now we're in like the stadium section. So it tells us the overall condition of the playing surface is affected by how good that your field is, and it affects the injury chances. So one of the things that used to happen to players back in the day, they actually would sit there and they would be on that hard artificial turf. And if you're a younger football player and don't know about it, they said that they would have rather fell on concrete than to actually, try to play on this turf, because when they would try to stop, they would stop so hard it would twist and blow out knees. So there's a lot of people that actually had sporting injuries because the turf was too hard. Whereas if they was on some type of concrete or whatever, at least they would slide and actually be okay. And then there was other times that they would actually bang their head on the ground, and because the impact was so hard, they said it would have been better to be on the actual ground having a head bump than to actually fall on this artificial turf. So things like this is kind of like the mindset that, you should have with this. The worse your field conditions are, the more likely you're going to be hurt. And then it's just like seating. It tells you about your prices and stuff. It's a whole lot of this. I won't get into it, but you see the things, luxury boxes, more money at that price, and venues in your restroom. Just think, you don't want to go to a stadium and the bathrooms, it's talking to you before you get there. You just don't. It's not a good thing. Training, same thing. It helps your team morale and it helps your injury chances. Just understand, one of the things that people sleep on is the team morale. Make sure that you don't sleep on that, because that's an important aspect of this game. If things not right in these areas, if it's affecting team morale, your team is going to be horrible. So just remember that. Then you have your rehab. Some of the things aren't installed, but you see how much it's either going to cost to install it or repair it. Right now, to get you a spa, you're going to have 22 million, in the bank and pay for it. Right now, I can buy it. I'll go ahead, since I'm not going to be playing this particular franchise. You go over here, say if you want to install a new spa, you're going to purchase it. Purchase is successful. So right now, it reduces stress and it's for the overall health. So injury chances, morale, and prayer progressions, all of that is going to be affected for the good. So there you go. And then you have your transportation. So you got good transportation, your morale is going to be great. But if it's bad, then they're going to be like, I don't want to play because my back and arm, my neck, pretty much my neck and my back is hurting. So this is where pretty much the facilities come into play. And then one of the things to talk about is we want to talk about the financial report. Always remember, it's always about the money when it comes to football or any other thing. It's always about the money. So one of the things you've seen that I did about is spar for the players and stuff. So we had something like 106 million, but now we only have 82 million. And the reason is we went ahead and invested into the facility. So you have your revenue and you have the expenses. Right now, when you just look at the overall revenue, we have 60 million in revenue. And then we have, as expenses, we have over 306 million in expenses. So right now we are losing almost 250 million in profit. So one of the things that I like to do as far as games like, Access football, I like to put myself in a real world situation and say, well, would you continue to be a team, or would you have to bankrupt that team and have a new owner come in and then you play from there? These are the things that you can sit there and enjoy and put into your franchise and into your particular leagues. That way it has more of a story to what you're trying to do. So this is what this is talking about here. So that is what the financial report's about. So now one of the very last things I'm going to cover is the team activity. And you see there's nothing here right now, But one of the things I'm going to do to just show you how this particular thing would work, I'm going to go to personnel and I'm going to go to the depth chart, and we're just going to say, for whatever reason, I want to cut, Javier Platts. I'm going to sit there and we'll send him to the practice squad. Then let's see, Ira Weaver, let's send him to the practice squad. And then see, go to free agency and just going to get Stewart here. I'm going to offer him a contract. He's like, man, I want more than that. I don't think you that good, but I'm going to give you some crazy contract. So here we go. Give you that contract. He accept. So now when I actually go to the front office and then I go over here to the team activities, one of the things that we see is during free agency at week 6, it shows us that Stuart Janikowski was actually signed. And what is the details of it? It shows that we signed him to a 3-year, $3.6 million contract. So these are the things that you can keep track of if you wanted to know what happened with your particular team and things like that. So this is something that you can use as you come up with stories in your franchise. Trust me, the best way to actually play Axis football is not only do you immerse yourself in the gameplay, but truly immerse yourself in the actual storylines that you can create. The more that you can create a storyline, the more enjoyment you're going to get out of the game. And let the Axis, games and Axis team know on Discord and in the forums or whatever. Let those guys know what you like and don't like about the game so that they can improve on it. Because one of the things I continue to see people always talking about is how great of, the owner, like not the owner, but the main developer and a lot of the development team, how well they listen to us as the consumer and the player. And they try their best to either fix or try to make sure it's going to be a part of the next game. When we get behind people like that, we can always come out with a better game. So just make sure you give this game a chance. And I hope that you got something of great value out of this. And this is your boy St. Dead saying, see you on the flip side.